What's up, guys? How's it going? A little Thursday night hangout. The Linc, the Thursday Linc. I think it's just the Linc. But Thomas, there's items to talk about. Eagles questions that we're going to continue to have for months, and a little bit of news that we've discussed on some videos and everything else too. But shout out to the chat. And how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well, and first off, I think we're kind of in this gray zone where we're not quite ready for free agent rumors. That kind of happens at the end of February. You start to remember a couple years back, end of February, Saquon Barkley, and we all said no way, and then they did. Last year it was Myles Garrett, and then they didn't. So we're not quite ready for the fun stuff, and so instead we're getting AJBrownTrade drama, which I'm sure people will ask about. We'll talk about that. It's going one way, and then it goes another way, and now drafting quarterbacks behind Jalen Hurts. That was a fun one today on ESPN. So you're getting the unfun rumors, but the fun rumors are just a couple of weeks away, so bear with us.
Yes, and then we're going to have lots of talk, like you say. I think yours might be a little bit loud. I know we're trying to test this beforehand, and people bearing with us as we've got the new audio set up. So you want to slightly turn it down and then test it?
I just did.
We should
be
okay.
Yep.
So
Let me know.
we're a little bit better there. That sounds better. So again, apologies for everybody, but I made the adjustment last week, and I appreciate all the people, even after the fact, after the live, hey, comment. That's cool. It really helps us in the midst of it. But, if you want to leave something for the algorithm, we'll take that too. I don't know where necessarily we want to jump into. If you have a particular interest, I know that kind of in the intro there, you mentioning Jalen Hurts and hey, Eagles, Jeremy Fowler was the one on Get Up earlier this morning, and he's like, hey, the Eagles, obviously, and we don't necessarily have to, because people go like, oh my gosh, how dare you even say AJ Brown's name basically these days, so we don't have to go there. But he did say that there's rumors, there's possibility the Eagles could draft a quarterback on day 2, and it's like, okay, I hear that, and yes, it's like you got Jalen Hurts, but the haters out there automatically say, oh, well, the Eagles are, they're not sold on Jalen Hurts. They're trying to get rid of him. They're trying to Carson Wentz Jalen Hurts, right? Like draft the next guy. It's never a bad thing to have the stable full of quarterbacks and say like, hey, we're just gonna have depth there. Plus Howie Roseman has made the statement of we're going to essentially just have the quarterbacks here. He's done that time in and time out. We've seen how valuable it is for backup quarterbacks, but I don't think, me personally, took that as much of a like, oh my gosh, are we punting on Jalen Hurts here? Are we punt 1 year later after the Super Bowl MVP and winning it all? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, if they would just said draft a quarterback and didn't say day 2, we wouldn't even care, right? Because they already lost the quarterback they drafted on day 3. I'm blanking on his name right now, Kyle McCord, who really didn't do much, and now he's gone. And so Philadelphia needs kind of that third string quarterback, assuming that Tanner McKee is going to be there. If they were to trade Tanner McKee, then I think backup quarterback becomes more of a priority. Sam Howell could still be on the roster. We'll see. But this whole idea that they're going to Carson Wentz Jalen Hurts just doesn't make a lot of sense. We forget how different it was in 2020. We are 2 years removed from Carson Wentz being what we thought was all a really good quarterback, and the regression was really, truly there. There's a reason they took Jalen Hurts in round 2, because everybody saw outside the building, especially inside the building, that the regression was there for Carson Wentz. I don't think the same can be said for Jalen Hurts. And the main reason is we've seen Jalen Hurts with good offensive coordinators, right? We've seen it. We saw Carson Wentz be great for 1 season, and that was it. Every other season was extremely volatile, extremely up and down, and it slowly got worse every single year. Jalen Hurts just had 1 bad season that wasn't the first one in 2021, right? You kind of throw that one out. That one doesn't really count. Great in 22. He threw for a lot of yards, threw a lot of touchdowns, actually had a pretty good offensive season in 2023 for the most part. A.J. Brown had a good year that year as well. Didn't run the football very well, terrible defense. 24 came back really, really good. And then, of course, 2025 was probably the worst out of the ones that I just listed. But the idea that they would go get a second-round quarterback, I think it's ridiculous. I don't see it being a possibility. And Philly wants to spend those draft picks to get cheaper at a lot of different positions. Get young free offensive linemen who are on rookie contracts. Get a wide receiver if they trade A.J. Brown. There's 19 projected wide receivers going in this year's draft. Grab one who's going to be a rookie contract for 4 seasons. Go get a secondary piece, a cornerback, maybe add a safety. All of these are going to be, if you hit on them, a lot more productive and successful for Philadelphia, not just short term, but the next 3, 4, or 5 years on those rookie deals than taking a quarterback. And the final reason is, come on, what quarterback do you want? This is a historically weak quarterback draft class. We know Mendoza goes 1. We know someone's going to reach for Ty Simpson. After that, Trinidad Chambliss just apparently got a judge a couple of hours ago to say he has a 6th year of eligibility in college football. So he might not even be out there, an option comparable to Jalen Hurts. You want Carson Beck, you want Drew Aller to be the pick in the second round. I'm just not interested. And to me, this is a classic. We must make up a talking point to give people something to talk about because it's February 12th and nothing's going to happen technically until at least one more week when the real free agent rumors begin. And so I think they're going to draft a quarterback. It's just going to be in round 5, right? Round 4 would make sense and it wouldn't threaten Jalen Hurts. Anything above round 4, you do start to kind of wonder if it's a third round draft pick, certainly a second. Anything behind that, you're like, okay, he's just part of the quarterback factory. He's going to learn, not a big threat to QB1.
Yep. And even if someone fell, I wouldn't be overly concerned.
Sure.
But yeah, like you're saying,
Sure.
there's other holes that they need to fill, and there's other areas they can capitalize on. I mean, you look at Daniel Jeremiah and Dane Brugler, I think were both very similar. It was a couple minor differences, but in terms of the positions in this draft, which are basically the deepest, would be wide receiver and defensive line for the top 100 prospects. And we know that, there's what are they going to do at that spot, regardless of A.J. Brown, right? We don't have to discuss the rumors because people don't want to there. But even with Jahan Dotson, very likely on the way out, Johnny Wilson is going to be healthy, presumably. I mean, all signs seem to be that he will for next season. But still, like, who's your wide receiver 3, And so are they going to go out and draft someone? If there's some depth in that spot, obviously tight end, has to be addressed. I'll be shocked regardless of if Dallas Goedert comes back, and that'll be, something that I'm interested to see as free agency plays out. It feels like when you look at the cap structure of the Eagles, that if they want to try to free up even just a little bit of room, a Dallas Goedert return actually does make a whole lot of sense. But, it's kind of like the flip side of that argument, though, too, is like, does Goddard want to return? Does he feel slighted in any way because he was asked to essentially take a pay cut? He seems to be a consummate team player, professional. He loves the Eagles. He did say that he wanted to return, but there's an element to it that can always come into play that money talks. And, does he feel like there's a little bit of like, I kind of been here, paid my dues. Yes, I've been injured, but can't necessarily help that too much. But last year he proved it. He played all but I think 2 games during the regular season, made it for the playoff game, of course. Career high in receiving touchdowns. If there's any squad out there who's willing to take a gamble, then, maybe they try to assert themselves on that side. But I don't know. You look at this Sean Mannion offense, it feels like, Thomas, and I know that it's a different comparison if you're looking at the Packers and saying, okay, well, they didn't have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and they had a Tucker Kraft option, but it still feels like tight end has to be the premium position for what they're trying to do and utilize the middle of the football field. And if you look at a Matt LaFleur offense, and a lot of that's probably going to be the creativity or the inspiration for Sean Mannion, Dallas Goedert's got to be here, or you have to swing fairly big if that's whether that's the draft or within free agency.
Yeah, and the problem with the draft is there's no guarantee that Sadiq is going to be there. That's the one name that we all really, really want. It was, you think back to Kyle Pitts a couple of years back, or even this past draft where there was Tyler Warren, there was the guy who went to the Bears. It was like, or Colston Loveland, I should say. There are all these tight ends, but they normally go pretty high. And Philadelphia sits at 23. Do you want to give up next year's first-round draft pick to go get Kenyon Sadiq at number 10, 11, 13, 14? I don't think Philadelphia does. And so, to me, Goddard coming back makes the most sense. You mentioned the contract, but I could also see them going out in free agency, and David Njoku is going to be available. Very similar age, very similar, I would say, skill set. He's not as dynamic of a pass catcher, but he can certainly run block, and he would be cheaper because he didn't have, double-digit touchdowns in 2025 like Dallas Goedert did. But I think the main thing that people are forgetting here, and this includes A.J. Brown. I've already seen A.J. Brown comments, and you mentioned it. Sean Mannion. It's why he's in our thumbnail right now. What Sean Mannion potentially brings, and again, it's an unknown, but it's one of these, high risk, high reward sort of situations. It's like you're sitting at a slot machine and the next pull could be the big one that you go ahead and hit. Maybe Dallas Goedert's thinking about what Tucker Kraft was able to do in that offense. Maybe A.J. Brown has put on some film and gone, what happens if I'm schemed open for a change and I run routes that aren't 5-yard digs or, 10-yard out routes the entire game? Mm-hmm. What does that mean for me personally? But also, what does it mean for my football team and playing meaningful games in January? And that is one thing that I think if you're a Philadelphia Eagle the past 5 years during this crazy Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts ride, you've been competitive the entire time. And if A.J. Brown gets shipped off to, Tennessee, or A.J. Brown gets shipped off to Cleveland or the Raiders, or even you can make a case, getting shipped off to Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots. There's no guarantee that he's going to be playing meaningful football in January. Now, a lot of people think Philadelphia's going to take a step back. Maybe so, but they've been saying that for the past, 4 seasons? And Philadelphia has never technically taken a step back. They've always been in the playoffs, and they've always had a competitive roster. They just haven't always been able to execute or coach really well with said competitive roster. So I think that the Mannion factor in all of this could be the key to getting someone like a Dallas Goedert to go ahead and come back. Hey, the big problem last season wasn't our defense, but it wasn't our personnel, it was our health and our play calling. And if our health is going to be fixed just by virtue of, not playing football, and our scheme is going to be fixed by the fact that they really went all in to change this offense, Josh, what's to say we don't have a top 5 defense in 2025 that's just obliterating people every single week? And if the offense, as we keep saying, is 20% better, what if it's 50% better? What if it's 35% better? They're going to score a lot more points, and they still won a ton of games this year with Ken Batula, which is pretty nice to think about.
It's true, yes. We said all season long, like you're talking about, if they just be average on offense.
Yeah, that's
we're
all we
sitting
needed.
pretty. He's going to have a lot of the weapons. I am hopeful. I know that the vast majority, there's a few, but the vast majority of us are hoping that there's nothing done with AJ Brown, because even if you're ready to move on, I don't think anybody could actually legit believe in this and argue that when AJ Brown is locked in and when he's ready and motivated to play, that the Eagles aren't the best version of themselves with him on the team. Like,
for sure.
You have him and you got Devontae Smith, who can be flat out insane. Like, could be one of the best route runners in the game, and not utilized sometimes just because there's so many different weapons on there. And if Sean Mannion, like you're talking about, if you get more of that creativity and the collection of, okay, the pass game is setting up the run game and vice versa, because we didn't see a whole lot of that. And even going back to the Kellen Moore offense, it was better. But I mean, we've heard multiple takes. You hear from Jason Kelce, you hear from other players as well, of going like, yeah, but there was still some disconnect. We saw it. Right, like there's a number of times even during the Super Bowl run. It's like after the Baltimore game, after the Carolina game that they should have lost. You're going, like they have the pieces, they can do it, but there are also some struggles there. And it's not to say that every team doesn't experience some bumps in the road. They for sure do. No one's flawless. You can go through an entire season. They're going to have some struggles. But I just like the fact that there's the potential of marrying the run game, the passing game in there. And so, it may work out. Like we've said here before too, this is the last chance for Nick Sirianni. If the offense can fire on all cylinders, I have all the confidence in the world on the defense, because it's Vic Fangio and we know what he can do there. And, yes, they're going to have some decisions to make, whether a Nakobe Dean returns, whether Reed Blankenship returns, what you're going to do on the defensive line, Jalen Phillips, all that. But defensively, they're going to be good enough. Even if they were to statistically take a little bit of a step back, they're going to be good enough, assuming that the offense can then hold serve with the talent that they have up there. And again, it becomes a big question of some of the guys there. Dallas Goedert, obviously, the contributions. And, what does the offensive line look like? Lane Johnson, thankfully, it sounds like he's going to be returning. But you still do wonder and question, like, a Lisfranc injury sometimes can derail older players towards the latter parts of their career. A bigger guy like Lane Johnson, he has plenty of time over the offseason, we would assume, to get right and get healthy. But even before that injury, last year he was in and out of games, right? It wasn't as much of a okay, we can rely on Lane here. We hope that he can, for if it is one more season and that's it. But it does feel like for the Eagles, with that, the Landon Dickerson news, contemplating retirement, they need to draft at least one offensive lineman. We've talked about this before with the picks that they have, and probably going out in free agency as well and trying to get some connections. The difference may be, though, Thomas, that we're talking about a different scheme here. It wasn't in the past, so even some of the guys on the roster that we've seen previously, like Anthony DeBona mentioned, and this is not as big of a stretch necessarily, but still mentioned, like Brett Toth, probably on his way out, probably will not be retained by the Eagles. And so you just kind of wonder, even those swing tackles, different guys who'll be playing backups, the guards and things like that too, who are the guys that come over and what the connections that they have?
It's going to be very interesting next couple of weeks, because the problem now too is also, what are they going to do to make sure they free up some more cap space? Because right now they don't have a lot, and they, they're you showed it in your show just a couple of hours ago, right? Restructuring doesn't really help them out that much. Talk about Jalen Hurts' contract extension maybe is something to go ahead and push dead cap money further down. Do you re-sign Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter? They need to get a little bit of spending money, because The problem with this draft, as we start to get, into draft season, you start to learn some more names and watch some more film. This is not a very strong NFL draft. You go back to this past season or even the season before with, the DeJean and Quinn Mitchell draft. Those were considered very, very deep drafts where you could get into the 20s in the first round. You could even dip back into the early part of the second round and get a first rounder. That's not the case in this draft. I read a couple of articles and a couple of deep dives talking about after pick 14, it's kind of like, 14 to 30 is the same player. There's not much of a difference. And so can Philadelphia, with all their draft picks, they have a ton, right? They saved up for this draft and the draft coming up in 2027. Can you trust you're going to get day one starters from that draft? I don't think so. I think they're going to have to do what Seattle did the past couple of seasons. Draft very well, hit on some draft picks, but also make sure that you hit on some free agent players as well who can go ahead and fill that spot. Doesn't have to be a big ticket item. We all would like that. But go find the next Zach Bond. Not at the linebacker spot, maybe the safety spot, maybe the corner spot. Who's going to be your starter on a cheap discounted price who comes to Philadelphia, and kind of turns their football career around? Philadelphia and Howie Roseman have got to find that, because this draft is going to be very interesting. And we forget, last year's draft, not a lot of starters in that, 7, 8, 9 picks, whatever it was. Campbell will probably start this coming season. Makuba likely as well. Are they both going to be of high caliber starters like Quinn Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalen Carter were in their first year, second year? I'm not sure. But they're going to need to go ahead and double dip in both of these categories if they truly are trying to reload instead of reset and make sure that this roster is ready to go for what is still a wide open NFL. I mean, I know it was a down year with Patrick Mahomes and the AFC seemed terrible, but it still feels like it's very much wide open on both sides. And if Philadelphia's defense can play as it has been, all the offense has to do is not be worse and just be 10% better. And they're winning double-digit football games. They're winning the NFC East, and they'll be a real threat in the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, the schedule is going to be difficult. We've brought up the schedule a couple different times. We don't know exactly how it falls week-wise and, where they're going to be playing those games, or I should say when they're going to be playing those games. But yeah, like even the Super Bowl winners, you look and see Clint Kubiak is no longer going to be there. Now, defensively, you would expect Seattle to be good, but, as we know, and a lot of teams can attest to it as well, the Bucs were in the same boat. The Lions were in the same boat as well. You lose your offensive coordinator, your play caller, and it doesn't necessarily always translate to the same production, even if on the field wise you have the talent. So yeah, I'm believing in it as well. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about it. It is the ultimate gamble, and we continue to say this with Deshaun Mannion, but it's also like nobody really, like you can pick up tendencies, but nobody knows for sure what Sean Mannion's going to call. They don't know what this offense is going to look like. You got a bunch of crazy weapons, and assuming that, the vast majority of those do return, the potential, the sky is the limit. There's so much that they can do, and for a little bit, I think that I was like skeptical, cautiously optimistic maybe, and that might even be a stretch, but cautiously optimistic, like, okay, they're gonna try something new kind of, but it's not gonna be like a complete 180. It's gonna be like a 10% change, a 15% change with a little bit of hand holding from Sirianni, and okay, we'll see what this does. This is a complete 180. Like everything that they're doing, they're bringing in here. Now I know that they didn't want Jeff Stoutland to leave. They were trying to retain him, that whole story there that played out, but with that happening and taking place, it's like, all right, you got a new pass game coordinator in Josh Grizzard, you got a new offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion, your offensive line coach, which familiar system of a Sean McVay and a Matt LaFleur system, which assumingly Sean Mannion will be running. So hopefully you got success there. If he can figure out how to sequence plays, because he's never done it before, I think that it's going to be very dangerous for other opposing teams, because again, you look at, they don't have any film on that side. So maybe you get fortunate in a way in this draft of being able to hit on a couple players with it not being so deep, so to speak. It does feel like there's a lot of those day 2 picks that draft analysts are putting out there, like, hey, it may be better, if you're not in the very top end of the draft, right, the first round, than to be in that sweet spot there. And if nothing else, I mean, Howie's got, a first round, a second round, 2 third rounds, 2 fourth rounds, and 2 fifth rounds. So either we see a lot of draft capital, a lot of ammunition to trade up, or it wouldn't be crazy surprising if, you get some players on their board that go earlier and they don't get, and Howie's like, we'll trade back. We'll get some more for next year. It's not the most fun when we're sitting there doing the draft coverage on draft night, but it's like, if the depth is not there, then you maybe pair it up and use it for the draft next year. Or the other thought and possibility, and Adam Schefter brought this up on his recent podcast, was saying, like, look, with it being so lackluster, I guess, for lack of a better term, but lackluster for a draft, or not comparatively to other seasons, are there more trades? Do you see a couple other teams swinging bigger for trades to acquire players of need or positions of need, because they don't expect that they can get those like day one starters, kind of like you're talking about? And then, like we kind of opened with, the rumors, the fun speculation, the calls that start happening, that Howie's going to do it, but it does make some sense whenever you look at it that way, from how Schefter kind of painted the picture, especially for a team like the Eagles that are pretty cash strapped, so to speak. If they can, use some picks and free up some space with Dallas Goedert, maybe an extension, like you're also saying with Jalen Hurts there, get a few guys on the pass rush, even if they can't, let's say, hypothetically, they can't get Jalen Phillips. There's some other options.
Sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
See. Got a couple super chats here. Appreciate you guys, as always. Make sure to drop a like for us, though. Leo with a 5. I do not want Jalen Hurts to get replaced. I don't think you have to worry about that. But also said he has led us to a Super Bowl with a good offensive coordinator where he can actually make plays. Go Birds. Go Birds.
Yeah,
that he does.
The whole thing that Jalen Hurts does to the media in the offseason is, it seems like he kind of can be a little bit, I don't know if off-putting is the word. He's not everybody's friend in the locker room. And I think that that's where all of this stuff kind of stems from, right? You and I have met Jalen Hurts multiple times, and he's not, super. Jalen Hunt is super bubbly. Jalen Hunt, we've met him multiple times. What's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you guys are doing well. Great to see you in Philadelphia. Just how he is. Jordan Davis the exact same way. Jordan Mailata is the exact same way. Some guys in the locker room are everybody's friend. They're very outspoken. They enjoy talking to the media, and some guys aren't. Jalen Hurts is on the opposite end of that spectrum. He's very reserved. That's why you know nothing about what he does in the offseason. We have no clue what Jalen Hurts enjoys doing in his free time. Emmanuel Acho has a hilarious tweet out like 15 minutes ago where he's like, I saw Jalen Hurts at the Super Bowl, and he was sitting in the corner, and oh my goodness, he was just on his phone, not talking to people. First off, that's hilarious. We've all been at restaurants on our phones, and then people walk away, and then you talk to people. So Acho just being Acho. But Jalen Hurts is just not exactly the most friendly guy, I think, speculating here, inside a locker room. So he's not everybody's friend. And then people start chirping a little bit, and that gives the media a little bit of ammo to go, oh, well, not everyone loves Jalen Hurts in that locker room, when in reality, everyone's just not his best friend. And so I don't think that they're going to replace Jalen Hurts anytime soon, but I think the way that it works in Philadelphia is, it's what have you done for me lately? Nobody thought Doug Peterson would be let go a couple of seasons after losing a Super Bowl, or winning a Super Bowl, excuse me. Nobody thought Carson Wentz. Now, he had an injury, and he did start to regress, but nobody thought that Carson Wentz and also Nick Foles, they also got rid of Nick Foles eventually, would be out as quickly as they were. Nick Sirianni for sure is on a hot seat if he struggles in any sort of way, especially early in 2025 or 2026, he will be gone. And I think Jalen has way more of a leash than Nick Sirianni, but he still has more of a leash than a lot of other franchises give their quarterbacks who probably need a shorter leash. And so all of that is to be said, this is what's going to be like in Philadelphia every single offseason for the rest of our lives. There is going to be a new insider coming out saying this about our quarterback, this about our receiver, this about our coach, until August, until September, whatever, start of the season. And as Philadelphia Eagle fans, we have to kind of sift through all this and go, okay, do they hate Jalen Hurts? Or, maybe they want to get someone to replace Kyle McCord. What's the real story here that Fowler is talking about? And, we've got a couple of months until the NFL draft to go ahead and find out, or react to whenever it happens. But I'd be shocked if they got rid of QB1 anytime within the next 3 seasons. He would have to stink a lot, at least the next 2, for them to be like, we're officially done with the former Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, and he's proven, obviously, with the multiple offensive coordinators, 11 or play caller, like 11 in 11 seasons, right? Like dating all the way back to college. So he's proven that he can be adaptable. So I'm believing in that. I think that the vast majority are. But yeah, I heard the take from Emmanuel Acho. And again, like, it is the time of year. So people have to have even more extraordinary takes, I guess, to throw that out there. But I'm like, are you serious? Like, what are we doing? we're criticizing a guy based on like how he looks in a restaurant or like out in like a little bit of a social outing kind of, and the fact that he's quiet and on his phone, that he's just like not able to interact with some people, doesn't get along with. I mean, yeah, that's just his personality. But at the same time too, you go, Michael Jordan is like the icon for Jaelan, right? Like that's probably his, if he's listed out before, but like, you know, he wanted to be able to meet him. He obviously has. He's part of the Jordan brand. He's a big ambassador for that.
Yep.
Is anyone really like, I know Acho's statement, I saw it again. It's like, okay, try to get your engagement, but are you legit surprised by that? Like, come on, if you know anything, are you surprised by the fact that the way that he comes off to people, if you were to see him, you know, again, we've seen him in person, we've met, but like, it's not a surprise. That's what I anticipate. Yeah. Everyone, like if you have a mentor, right? Or you have someone that you look up to, the vast majority of the time in life, regardless of where, the vast majority of the time, you know, you try to mirror yourself a little bit, right? Like you're okay. That's who I want to look like. So go figure. There's some positives and negatives. If anyone's watched any documentaries about Michael Jordan, right? The dude's a winner. Did he get along with everybody? Absolutely not. Was he a jerk sometimes? Yeah. 100%. But sometimes that killer instinct is what makes him so good, especially whenever he's in the biggest moments. So, you know, like, I get it. I understand some of the comments on it, but ultimately there's a reason that Jalen Hurts was the only active player at the Super Bowl in that Super Bowl Legends Club, the pregame ceremony with everybody else. And I'm like, and I've seen that like people, as soon as it happened, you had the memes on social media, and it was like the Jalen supporters like, oh my gosh, look, there's the quarterback, which I love. And then you had a lot of the rest of the NFL that are like the clown meme, right? Like it's like, oh, here's the legit ones, and then there's Jalen Hurts. But he was there. You do wonder, I would guess that Patrick Mahomes was also invited, but the ACL injury and all that other stuff just couldn't show up. But people, of course, want to just take that and run with it and blow it out of proportions on both sides. But ultimately, I'm with you too. Like, Jaelan has a really long leash. And I think also, even if people want to doubt him, like in the building, the Eagles trust and believe in Jalen Hurts. They're making these moves because they believe in Jalen Hurts here. They are saying that, yes, there's things that Jaelan has somewhat of a weakness on, but there's also some things that he's willing to push the envelope, that he's willing to attack the middle of the field, that he's looking for some more help from a good quarterbacks coach who now is the offensive coordinator, but previously was a quarterbacks coach, and saying, hey, we want you to take our guy to the next level, because where this offense goes is going to be predicated on what Jalen Hurts does. And they're investing basically everything that they can in Jalen Hurts, and we'll see it where it turns out. But I don't think that over the last, 6 years he's been in the league, it's not a great bet to bet against QB1.
Well, I know we got a lot of super chats, but one final thought here. Drake May should be, in that Super Bowl, Drake May should have told us everything we need to know about Jalen Hurts. Because Drake May, many people would take him over Jalen Hurts right now. Jalen Hurts, in his 2 Super Bowls, never wavered, right? And that first one, he had to win a shootout. In that second one, he just did not have to screw up, right? Because the defense was playing so well. Drake May looked like a deer in headlights, and people will take him over Jalen Hurts. I think a lot of them would. I obviously disagree. Night after night after night. And yet what Jalen Hurts has done in those 2 Super Bowls is never look rattled, never made any big, serious mistakes. And even when he did throw a pick and did have that fumble, he came right back to it. And that is some trait that people do not understand. Being able to play in the big moments is grossly overrated, because so few people actually get to play in the big moments. And when you actually get a second-round quarterback in Drake May in the big game, you see what it's truly like to go ahead and have all that pressure. In fact, Jalen Hurts never folded, is at least worth mentioning.
Yep. 100. Zarvon with the 2. Got several super chats here, which we'll get to. Go Birds, DHs. Go Birds. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Go Birds.
Killer Instinct with the 5. Got actually 2 of those. We appreciate that. Second one here says, we need to keep AJ and go after another cornerback. Heard Tariq Woolen may be available.
That's so actually, it's very interesting. Well, yeah, I was going to say, so he was tied to Philadelphia a while ago, but Seattle, much like Philadelphia in 2023 or in 2022, and really 2024, you're going to get poached. You're going to lose people. People are going to go get paid. Tariq Woolen's a free agent. Kobe Bryant's a free agent. Josh Jobe, the former Eagle, is also a free agent. Maybe a reunion there. There's a lot of Seattle cornerbacks in that secondary who are going to be on the open market. And I do think that Philadelphia likely goes to the draft to kind of, secure the Adoree Jackson cornerback spot. But I wouldn't be shocked if Philadelphia goes and finds a veteran free agent like Adoree Jackson or Dory Jackson himself. No one's talking about that. Just re-sign him for another year. Let him start until the rookie's ready to go ahead and shore up that other cornerback spot. And so Woolen to me is a little bit overrated. I wouldn't give big money to Reek Woolen. I think Woolen's going to go get a big contract from one of the lesser teams. You think about what was it, Snead, the Chiefs cornerback, who was like the best corner in the league, and then he signs this massive deal with the Titans, and then he just disappears off the face of the earth. I think Woolen's going to do something very similar. Philadelphia's had their time in the sunlight with ex-Seattle #1 starting cornerbacks, and we all know how that turned out. So I wouldn't hate the idea of re-signing Adoree Jackson, year 2 in Vic Fangio's system, and taking a cornerback in round 1 or round 2 and just kind of waiting to see what happens. I'm very okay with that sort of strategy opposite of Quinion and Coop, because Adoree Jackson, when healthy, was honestly pretty decent, and that's all you need when you have an all-pro on the other side.
Sure, yeah. And like you say, too, if you can get that combined with a developmental piece, and maybe that piece is someone who plays earlier than that. But if you kind of have the tandem of both of those, ultimately whatever they can do to minimize costs, because like we say, they have, it's like roughly 20, it's all relative and kind of speculative at this point because we don't have the official number, but it's somewhere around 20 million, 22 million in cap space.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, no one's reported this, but just doing the math and, kind of common sense here, Michael Carter is going to get released because it's a almost $9 million cap savings to release him. So when they would do that, then, we're talking about almost $30 million in cap space. And yeah, you have some pretty good flexibility there. I know that's not a lot comparatively for other teams, but as we know, the way that Howie Roseman paying bonuses, or Jeffrey Lurie paying the signing bonuses, and then allows Howie to push that dead cap down with void years and everything else, $30 million in cap space can do quite a bit. Heck, we remember Saquon Barkley, right? Whenever he signed his first deal, I know it's been pushed and backloaded, but the first year cap hit, if I'm not mistaken, was like $5 million? It was something
really
insane.
low.
And you're going like, wait, the cap hit for like Saquon, AJ, Devontae, and Jaelan was like the same as Dak Prescott, or so it was like really close, right? Because we were like seeing those memes of like, oh, the Cowboys have Dak Prescott and the Eagles have all 4 of these guys for the same. Now, you eventually pay for it, as we're seeing. It's starting to come to fruition, but by continuing to kind of work off that standpoint, that framework, they still have some good space, even if it's only 30 million. So we'll see what they do on that side. But Killer, we appreciate that. Anthony with a 50 bomb, dude.
Whoa!
Another 50. You're the man. I absolutely hate the Eagles offseason around the draft. Absolutely. Okay, so around the draft, outside of that, just absolutely hate it. I know there's some that really appreciate the team building aspect and the longevity. The NFL, I know it's the NFL offseason, but it doesn't really feel like the NFL ever sleeps, because it's like one thing to the next thing, right? Like there's a little bit of a lull and right now, and then very quickly it's going to be combine, free agency, draft, mini camps, OTAs, a little bit of a break, training camp, preseason, and then we're here again for the regular season. But I hear you, Anthony. I get it. I know. I personally prefer regular season. I think more people prefer the regular season than the off season and the team building.
Sure.
Anthony DeBona is one of the psychos that might say that he prefers the other way around. I would just rather have football on Sundays, but to each their own.
There you go.
Lunar Wolf with a 10. Appreciate that. Thanks for all you guys do. My question is, if Sean does well this next year, either deep playoff run or a Super Bowl, do they think, or do you think they boot Nick? Sean bringing in all these people makes me think it could happen.
Yeah, this has been speculated because people hate Nick Sirianni. It's very rarely happened in the NFL. Can you think of a time when an offensive coordinator was recently hired and then kicked out the actual head coach and was successful? Like, we see interim head coaches all the time. Antonio Pierce with the Raiders is a great example. It's like, this guy's going to be really good, and then he was not really good at all. So it's probably unlikely that that's the case. But I do think that if Philadelphia truly looks at Sean Mannion internally and goes, we do have the next Matt LaFleur, Ben Johnson, or Sean McVay, then they would do it, right? I mean, barring the fact that Sirianni gets you to the NFC title game or a deep, divisional round playoff run, if they were to think they had Ben Johnson and then lose or not make the playoffs or lose in round 1, then yeah, I could totally see them doing that. But we just don't have a lot of historical reference to, we just hired this young guy We don't know what he's like, but he actually is really good, and then we're going to fire the head coach and replace him with him. I can't think of one.
Yeah, I can't either. I mean, I get the sentiment like you're talking about, and it's going to be
for sure
nonstop. It just, I don't know, the practicality of it. I understand like the X's and O's, and it's like, oh, we don't want to lose him and try to longevity here, right? The building of a whatever you want to believe in, a dynasty, like because of the super chat, they're like a deep playoff run or Super Bowl. But if that happens, if anything, it really just solidifies more of Sirianni. Like I know that people will hate to hear that, a lot of people, but if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I mean, let's be honest, like Sirianni is going to hang around. If they make the Super Bowl and lose, I mean, maybe if they made the NFC Championship game and lost, because again, they're saying deep playoff run, so I'm assuming that's at least how far they got. Like, right. I don't know. Maybe like it depends on how it looks, I guess. If they still are kind of like, man, the defense carried us, and Sirianni was I don't know. Like he's so far removed himself from the play calling aspects of it. It would almost have to be like they made a deep playoff run and he made a really tactical, like situational error. Like he decided to go for it when he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Or, it's just like constant mistakes like that. But I mean, the vast majority aren't typically, you don't come away from the game and going like, oh, that was the absolute reason. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times it's like, the play calling, or they just weren't getting the depth of what the game was going on. And again, then that would fall on a Sean Mannion or a Vic Fangio. So it's really hard to say. If they have some success though, then Nick's kind of tied to both. So I don't know.
For sure.
It feels like they would have to either not make the playoffs or like a first round exit. I don't think that they would accept a first round exit again if that were the case.
Yeah.
So the seat is hotter. We'll just say that. Dylan with the 5. In case we don't get Micah Becton, anyone want a cheap reunion with Isaac Seumalo? It's an interesting thought.
Because of Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers were on primetime more than I think the Steelers deserve to be on primetime. But, Aaron Rodgers definitely drew those Thursday nighters, a couple of Monday nighters. And Isaac Seumalo is not the same player, but he still is widely considered one of the better guards in the National Football League. And he's one of the rare, well, not rare. Howie has had plenty of players like a Josh Jobe or a Rasul Douglas, who were bad in Philadelphia, left and were much better somewhere else. He very rarely has had a player who was good in Philadelphia, and then he just kind of like, lets him go and he gets even better somewhere else. I think Milton Williams is another good example of that he couldn't pay. Seumalo wasn't that expensive, though. Like, Milton was never coming back because of the price. Seumalo they could have, but Howie definitely wanted to get younger at that spot. And now Seumalo's had like 6, 7 good years, whatever it is, in Pittsburgh. I would be fine with bringing him back, but I think the price is going to be too much. I think Philadelphia wants to get younger on the offensive line. And what they have at least proven, albeit with Stoutland helping, reportedly with a lot of the scouting in terms of the NFL draft offensive line picks, when they take somebody in rounds 1 or 2, and I guess you can say 3 with Tyler Steen, they've been pretty successful with offensive linemen. I know Jurgens and Dickerson are having trouble right now, but before that, they were Pro Bowl caliber players. They were really, really good. And so I see them with Lane coming back, at least locking up the right side. I would re-sign Fred Johnson. That's just me. If just Fred Johnson want to, I don't know. But I see them at least with some first or second round draft picks, spending it on a guard or a tackle and just going like, okay, this is our next guy for the next decade. He's going to be great. And then we hope that is going ahead and be the case. So I would like Seumalo. I just don't know what the price is going to be for a guy who I think still plays very, very well.
Yeah, I agree. It's sometimes you can get the reunions, which are successful. But I also do wonder for a lot of the same reasons, and you're even looking at, again, like the shift of a scheme here. Not to say that Seumalo couldn't do that if you wanted to bring him back, but I'm kind of wondering or thinking that if and when, or once we do get to free agency, but if and when they're looking at bringing in some sort of a veteran, an experienced guy, that maybe it's someone who has more of that experience of a Sean McVay or a Matt LaFleur system.
Yeah.
And so then you might bring in someone like that. But I don't know. You never know. There's tons of times that it's based off of connections, and maybe it is just an Eagles sentiment there, but I guess we'll see. Dylan with another question for free agency here. Also per Spot Track, Seattle Boye Mafe is $8 million per year. Okay, according to Spot Track. Maybe if Phillips for cornerback, I don't think it's as big of an issue as safety.
Yeah, and Mafe is one of those guys who would need to elevate himself when he comes to Philadelphia, right? He would be viewed as a role player and way less than Jalen Phillips. But for $8 million, if you're on a discount, Phillips were to walk, it would make sense. I've seen the number of $30 million a year being thrown out for Jalen Phillips on Twitter. I think Eagle Eric, who has this little, whatever you call it, he's got kind of like a projector, and he's been pretty accurate in terms
the
of
algorithm
potential
there is
contracts.
pretty, yeah.
17 million, that sounds fine to me. I think you get him on a 3-year contract for $17 million a year. Maybe have something to protect yourself against injuries. I don't know. Maybe make it a 2-year contract if you're worried about the lower body. But that to me makes a ton of sense. I then could see them going for another Jalen Hunt type figure in the 3rd round of the draft, right? So you go ahead and you have Hunt, who's supposedly, I think, going to be incredible in year 3. Have Nolan Smith, who has really battled injuries ever since the Super Bowl. He was not healthy in 2025. Those two are great. Phillips stays. You have 3 good edge rushers, and then you go try and find that next guy, right? But you go try and find maybe not a Moro Jomo that late in the draft, but a Moro Jomo caliber player who will back up in year 1 and then start to push a year 2 and push year 3 and then be the guy and be ready to go. And so I really think Jalen Phillips wants to stay in Philadelphia. I think being tied to Vic Fangio makes a ton of sense. I think that he will have offers higher than what the Eagles are going to give him. But again, it comes down to Jalen Phillips has never gotten to play in the playoffs, right? He was never playing meaningful games in January. He goes to Philadelphia, he does. And of course, they just did without him the year prior. Do you want to go sign with the Cleveland Browns? Do you want to go sign with the Las Vegas Raiders for $5 extra million to win 6 games? That's the decision for a lot of the guys and all free agency have to go ahead and do. And I think that when you have a taste of success and a taste of the Eagle fan base, which he definitely did, he loved it here, that's when it starts to become like, yeah, I can take a couple $1 million off of the deal, stay in Philadelphia, and be the guy for a football team that could go ahead and win it all.
I hope so. I do believe that he has, if it was just up to him, there'd probably be a little bit more, but it did feel like even as an end of season presser, he's kind of like, oh, talk to my agent, there's the conversation. So obviously, he deserves what he can get out there. And by the way, Eagles Eric, again, shout out to him because he's been spot on with a lot of those contract projections. He was saying that Jalen Phillips, and I mentioned it in the video that I just did, but 3 years, 60, 3 years for 63 million or something like that. It was like $21 million a year is basically what he was projecting, somewhere around there. So it was like in between a George Karlaftis and a Josh Sweat range if you're looking for player comps or kind of what they got paid, which would be interesting. Like I think there's a way you could sell that, or Howie would be sold on that if Vic Fangio really pounded the table saying like, look, this is my guy, especially because he's returned. He's coming back to coach for at least one more season. Hopefully it's more, but we'll just take the one that we can, whatever we can get. If he doesn't, though, then you're looking at a bunch of different options out there for free agency or even the potential of a trade, like I mentioned in the video as well, because there's, again, rumors and speculation on it. But it's like if you have a backup plan, and I mentioned Kayvon Tibido, which I'm curious as a potential there. He's not my preference. I would yes, give Jalen Phillips. Yeah. I would take. There's other options. But if we're looking at it and saying, okay, look, Jalen Hunt is here. He's for sure here. Mm-hmm. Nolan Smith is for sure here. I think people in the chat confirmed this already, but I saw someone asking, was Nolan in his 5th year? He's not. He's 4th year. Jalen Carter drafted, not Jordan Davis. But you got Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. So if those are your 2 edges, Jalen Phillips would be great to have there, obviously, for the rotation. But if you can't, I don't think it's the worst thing necessarily with a Kayvon Tibido, because the Giants need more cap space than the Eagles even. They got $6 million of cap space. Yeah. And Thibodeau's in his last year of his deal. It would, if they traded Tibido, it immediately clears up $15 million for the Giants. So they have all the reason in the world to get rid of him. He's on his last year of his deal, like a prove-it situation. We've seen that work out well for teams. I don't know. As a rotational guy, it probably would only take, like a 4th round pick, maybe even not a lot less than that to get Tibido over there. So curious.
It's a great point. And Harbaugh's going to want to get his guys. And if Thibodeau's not one of his guys, then you could ditch him for pennies on the dollar, because again, it comes with a $15 million, price tag benefiting you. Like you're $15 million in the green to get rid of this guy. So I could agree. I could totally see it.
Yep. But again, lots of the speculation for tons of guys, and that's what makes it exciting. Be sure to, if you have not already, some people were mentioning this, so again, it's a little announcement for everybody else. Just make sure that you have the bell clicked and the notifications on, because some people did not have those. It's maybe not as important right now because there isn't too much breaking news, but we're going to start getting it, especially once free agency hits. And, our promise to you guys is that we are going live as soon as that breaking news happens, once we start getting the big name signings. If it's a super minor one, we probably won't go live for, something like that. Like, hey, congratulations. No offense to Braden Mann, but like, hey, Braden Mann's coming back. Probably won't go live for something like that. But for the other ones, we will. So just make sure to turn the notifications on. Ram Ryder with a 10 bomb. Appreciate that. Thanks for the chat, guys. Does anyone really realistically believe that Nakobe Dean is brought back for next season? I just can't think of any reason why he would be, or think of any reason for that.
Yeah, well, the reason would be because he's so good in Vic Fangio's scheme, and Vic Fangio could have, part of the deal coming back. I want Nakobe, but I agree. We're going to see Nakobe Dean. Shout out to Nolan Smith's golf tournament in Savannah. I think Josh and I have been linking to that, so if you want to go to that, one of our previous videos have links to sign up. It's a blast. We'll be there March 9th, I think, is the date in Savannah, which is far from Philadelphia, but, nice place to fly to and visit and have fun. But we'll be around Nakobe Dean. I'm sure we'll ask him. He wants to come back. He says it publicly, but Nakobe Dean is going to want to get paid, right? And there are going to be a lot of suitors for Nakobe Dean because not a lot of people have a great inside linebacker that Nakobe Dean has proven to be the past couple of seasons. And when you have Jahad Campbell, it's the icing on the cake. If they didn't draft Jahad Campbell, he would for sure be back. They drafted Jahad Campbell, and I think the writings are going to be on the wall because if you re-sign Nakobe Dean, it means you're giving him at least a fair value contract, which is $10+ million a year. And what are you doing with Jahad Campbell? Are you going to take the first 2 seasons rookie contract for a guy who proved early on he was playing pretty well? We had him as defensive rookie of the year, like 5 games in, and just sit him on the bench another year? I just don't think that you do. I mean, Campbell has all of the size and the speed and the skills that you want in a linebacker. Dean plays above the level you would expect, which makes him so great. Campbell plays at a very good level, but has the potential to go even higher. And so I just think that the writing is on the wall there. And if you were to decide between Dean and Jaelan Phillips, you're probably taking Jaelan Phillips because it's more of a need than a linebacker spot with a young guy sitting in the wings.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know some people throw out the idea of, but what if they run like a 4-3 base? But like, it's so fun to think about. It's fun to envision, like, oh, let's get Nakobe Dean, Zach Vaughn, Jahad Campbell on the field. But as great as Nakobe is, and I think that there's a huge, and most of us I think are in the same boat, but I think there's a huge element of the team chemistry, morale, locker room vibes, whatever you want to call it, the team leadership, team captain in a sense, right? I mean, Nakobe not necessarily there, but basically being that voice for the defense. So yes, there's a lot there for him to either be here or if and when he were to leave. But like you said, that you put so much faith into a guy like Jahad Campbell. You could clearly see that was someone that Vic Fangio wanted from day one. I mean, his reaction from the draft, but every time he talks about Jahad before the season, during the season, that's his guy. And not that Nakobe isn't, but for all the reasons that you mentioned there, there's so many other ways or so many other positions they need to pay. They need to fill in those holes. So unless, again, go back to the super chat, like anyone really realistically believe, I don't realistically believe it, but if you want like a hope, a chance, I guess, the only way really in my mind is if Nakobe Dean takes an extreme team discount. If he's like, and he's been saying it on every interview that he's had, right? Like since the season ended, even before then, but like, he's like, I love Philly. I want to be in Philly. I want to be with the Eagles. That he wants that to happen. But realistically, the only way I think that does happen is if he were to say like, all right, guys, like I want to take a team friendly deal. And, or maybe he doesn't get quite what he wants out in free agency because of the injury and teams are scared off by the, like, okay, cool, he played really good, but he is coming away from this severe injury. So maybe we don't want to take a chance on him. And because of that, he's like, all right, I don't want to take a short term. I want to bet on myself again and come back to the Eagles. But even then, it would take such a team friendly deal where he comes back and, I don't know, like we're talking about what, like a 1 year, $5 million, like a super cheap prove it for Howie to go, all right, yeah, we'll gladly take you. But otherwise, like you said, there's only so much pieces of the pie they can divvy up here, especially for free agency and the guys they're going to lose. I just don't, percentage-wise, 5% chance that Nakobe returns, it's not very high.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Anthony with 10 more. My earlier statement, my earlier statement was about speculation and so-called drama from unnamed sources and unverified trades.
Yes.
Jalen character.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I wasn't sure of where that was going with the offseason and not liking it. But
all the drama is ridiculous. All the drama is ridiculous. Yes.
We're on the same page. For those reasons, the negativity, the drama, I mean, sometimes there's a little bit more with the reports, Thomas, but at the same time, too, it's almost like you can rinse and repeat the conversations and the topics and the does AJ want out of Philly, right? Last year people were saying this. Now, then you have maybe a few more that are weighing in on something like that, but still it does feel like the continual. Max Crosby made the comment, I think, on his podcast recently. He's like, I don't want to hear about trade rumors. I really don't. I want people to just leave me the F alone, and I want to play football. The players don't care. They that is the last thing on their minds. But because it is the off season, people need stuff to talk about, and some people go the route of positivity more so and talking about the team and other potentials there. But then there's the other negative viewpoint of it, or the drama side that you get a lot of those, unfortunately. 5 more from Anthony. Being a transplant here in Atlanta, I could say, Philly, be thankful for the teams you have. Don't be so quick to take that for granted. Trust me. Thomas can attest to that as well.
Can you imagine drafting a first round or spending an extra first round draft pick on a pass rusher who has 10.5 sacks and then is probably going to go to jail if he, all allegedly, you got to say that, but he's probably going to go to jail for a couple of years. He's at least done in the National Football League, and James Pierce could be a lot worse than what it is in Philadelphia. We forget that A.J. Brown is our big character problem in Philadelphia, which the truth of the A.J. Brown situation is he was frustrated with the offense, right? Which, honestly, we all were. And so it's funny that all of us, the fans, are like, oh my gosh, this offense sucks. And then A.J. Brown is like, this offense is terrible. We're like, oh, don't say that. And it's like, okay, but it was, and I could see why he's mad. Mm-hmm. Would you like him to not, dip his play on the field, drop a couple of passes because of it? Sure. But the fact that is our big scandal, the drama, versus what else it could be in the National Football League. You could be a Jet organization that has nothing going for them. The Falcons, who just can't get out of their own way. The Raiders are on their 30th head coach in my lifetime. Could be a lot worse. But
the Dolphins just hired Kevin Patullo after seeing
Holy cow.
Holy cow. The hitch routes are going to skyrocket. So
A-chain up the middle, baby.
It could be worse. It could be worse.
Have fun. Could be worse, yeah.
I find it ironic that the team that is moving on from Mike McDaniel, and you see the charts, Dennis Selman was the one who posted them all year, but you got the cross routes and you got the hitches, and it's the Eagles are up at the very top, obviously, for the hitch routes, but the Dolphins, when Mike McDaniels, were one of the lowest hitch routes and most crossers, so it couldn't be more opposite. And then, again, Mike McDaniel's gone, so obviously things are going to change, but Bobby Slowick decides, you know what, I'm going to take Kevin Patullo. I'm going to add him to the staff here. Now, again, I know he's not calling the plays, so it won't be completely drastic, probably, but he's still the pass game coordinator. And so you do have to wonder, because, and I saw someone else mention this on Twitter, people just going back and forth on this, and it brought up a good point of, you do have to wonder, Bobby Slowick was one of the candidates for offensive coordinator in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Had he gotten the job, would he have kept Kevin Patullo? I don't think so, but it's still something that would have been a nightmare to deal with if you're like, oh, wait, hang on. Did he see KP? He wants him to stick around? That's not going to fly. But we're not dealing with that. We got a new OC, unproven for sure, and there's lots of questions on our side there. But I don't know what Miami necessarily is doing with the hiring of Kevin Patullo.
I don't either.
Landed another.
I don't either. We'll see. Best of luck to him.
Sure.
Best of luck.
Yeah. Maybe they get Malik Willis. Or I have seen a couple people throwing out the because they're probably going to need a quarterback, right? Maybe Tua finds something else. It did seem like he regressed. Mike McDaniel wasn't really hiding that fact even last year of basically going out and calling it out. But Malik Willis available. Some people mentioning a Tanner McKee trade, and that brings up a question too. If the Eagles were to draft a quarterback on draft night, the national media perspective, I think, would first go with oh gosh, Jalen Hurts is not safe. But if Tanner McKee is still on the roster, if Howie drafts a quarterback early, that almost tells me more so like he's trying to fish for a buyer, fish for someone to buy on Tanner McKee to go, okay, hey, we can trade you him because they need some more quarterback play. So I don't know. There's multiple options, but at least that would be what I'm more inclined for as far as the quarterback and some of the depth there.
Yep, I agree.
Let's see. I think that was the bulk of
I think it was
the news and everything else too. I was double checking on these super chats too. I think that was the last one to make sure I didn't miss. If I do, it's not intentional, but I think I covered that one. Yeah, that was the last one.
Yeah, I think you got them
Anthony.
all.
So
I think you got them all.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you guys as always. Never tired of saying this, but you all make this possible. It is the best community on YouTube for the Eagles because of you guys. And we got some crazy giveaways, some awesome stuff planned. We'll continue to plug this, even though we are like 2 months away, a little bit over 2 months away. But draft night is going to be insane. Every time that I don't try to set expectations necessarily. We don't try to set expectations, but there is like, we talk about it leading up to the draft. We try to add some new elements, make it look as professional as we can, cover all the picks and the B-roll highlights and all that, have the ticker, which will be this year again. But if you have not been a part, I just highly encourage you to check it out because there's going to be, like I say, lots of giveaways and excitement and everything else for the stream. And even as great as last year was, Howie didn't have as much of the picks and ammunition as he does this year. So I feel like it'll be a little bit more of some excitement on draft night, not just the like, oh, wait, the Eagles traded out of the round. Okay, and that's it.
I think it's going to be pretty fun.
It's going to be pretty fun. I think it will too. There's lots of positions, so we'll see that. But David Likes with a 2-month membership. Shout out to you. Let's run it. Thank y'all. Go Birds. Go Birds. We appreciate that.
Go Birds.
And there we go. Also, congrats to the 5 members who got the memberships. I saw the other giveaway on that side, so got the memberships. And
there you go.
Make sure to drop a like. And we'll end it right here just really quickly. Some people saw me post a video, and I saw some of those comments. I had some issue with the audio. I don't know what happened. But the last video that I posted, it got posted, and I had to delete it. And it doesn't really help the YouTube algorithm. So if you haven't seen it, do me a favor, go watch it, hit the like button, and comment on it. And if you already have seen it, then maybe go back and do it again because it's not as successful as it normally has. But either way, appreciate you guys. Y'all are the best, and we'll see you next time. Go Birds.
Go Birds.